大家好，这是北美刘忙，今天是2021年的5月19号。来看一下这个机构，它是安联首席经济顾问 Mohammed Al-Arian。他怎么看现在这个美联储政策啊？他说为什么现在这个美联储政策是如何推动咱们这个市场的，尤其是咱们现在看到的这个回调。
We'll get to what I want to talk to Mohammed about. Joining us now, Allianz Chief Economic Advisor Mohammed Al-Arian is here. In this case, tech selling off, but it's not because suddenly the 10-year got out of control, Mohammed. That's still been well behaved, still between, still around 1.66%. But would you acknowledge perhaps the recent moves we've seen in commodities and maybe in inflation, CPI, PPI, has that got people thinking that the Fed may have to do something in terms of tapering sooner than we thought before? Is that what this is all about, the gravy train ending sooner than people thought? Or what is it?
So if they thought that the Fed was going to change its policy course, and good morning, Joe, you would see the 10-year move. No, this is something else, Joe. This is the markets worried that the Fed will be late.
Really?
And that's why you get this the market itself starting to question the liquidity paradigm. Because if the Fed turns out to be late, then the Fed may have to slam on the brakes. So what you're seeing is nervousness, not that the Fed will move, otherwise the 10-year will be much higher in yield, but nervousness that the Fed will be stubbornly holding on to its transitory mantra about inflation, while other central banks are changing course, while people are increasingly saying, hey, look at the evidence on the ground.
OK， 主持人问他说，你看咱们现在这个10年国债收益率还是一个比较可以控制的一个水平，还没有到2%，对吧？还是在1.6%左右在这徘徊，也有点上不去这个意思。那你说现在市场这么动荡，是不是因为CPI 的通胀率太高了，人民预期说是美联储要提前进行 QE 的这个紧缩？他说不是，他说现在这个10年美债收益率还很低，是因为美联储还在放水啊，美联储还在放水。如果美联储现在没有在大 QE 放水的话，10年美债收益率应该早就上去了啊，最起码到2%了啊。所以呢，现在其实市场担心的是啥？担心的是美联储不够快速的进行紧缩或者加息啊，觉得美联储太慢，所以担心的是啥？如果美联储紧缩缓慢，会导致什么？会导致如果未来通胀真的搞得控制不住，涨得太高的话，不像他说的那种是暂时的，而是一个永久的或者一个长期的。美联储需要去拉闸的时候，它拉得太快。什么意思呢？就是说你想加息，你不是说你现在想加息，你下个月就能加息的。你现在还有每个月这个1200亿的购债。你的这个顺序是先减缓你的购债速度，减缓你的购债啊，比如说每个月减个1个 billion， 对吧？然后等你12个月过后，你的 QE 就完全结束啊，缓慢，每个月减个这个1/12，这样慢慢1年就完全结束 QE， 然后你才能慢慢加息。那假如说未来通胀真的太高，控制不住怎么办？他这就是直接把 QE 直接关掉啊，直接把这放水这个钱关掉，直接升息的话，股市就绝对受不了啊！股市就绝对受不了啊！所以现在是因为有这种恐慌啊，股市才有这种回调啊！这是他认为就是恐慌，它加息它紧缩太慢。
If doesn't late imply that they lose control of inflation, and therefore you would think that people would be selling bonds and yields would be going up if the idea is that they're behind the curve on inflation.
You would, Joe, except you've got a central bank with a massive printing press in the basement, buying 120 billion of assets every month. So do you really want to challenge the Fed at this point when it's buying all this? No, you don't. So what you're seeing is other assets that the Fed does not impact directly. In the past, when it wasn't buying assets, when we didn't have QE, you would have seen the curve at this point move much more, because the Fed would only be able to control the short end of the curve with its interest rate policy. But because it's buying so many assets, it actually has much bigger influence on the whole curve than in normal times.
他说，如果现在我们觉得 担心是美联储它紧缩的时间往后推迟或者太晚。那为什么现在的10年美债收益率还这么低啊，在1.6%多？那他说现在因为是美联储每个月继续在买这个1200亿美元的资产，继续在 QE， 所以人们不想去挑战美联储啊。你想让这个10年美债收益率往上升，国债得受到抛售啊，但是美联储还在疯狂的买这些债券啊，你就相当于你要和美联储打架，你再有钱你打得过印钞机吗？对吧？所以人民还是不太想去挑战美联储这个购债的这个事。那他说，如果现在没有 QE 的话，没有这个购债的问题，他说这个10年美债收益率肯定会走上来。那因为美联储购债导致它有能力控制住短线和中长线的这个收益率，债券收益率。但是如果没有购债的话，没有这个资产收购的话，美联储是只有能力控制短线的国债收益率。
A lot of you, Mohammed, we see a lot of Jim Paulson too, and I know you watch pretty closely, Mohammed. Remember Paulson said when we are smack dab in the middle of reopening and it becomes clear, that's when we get perhaps a 10 to 15 to whatever the sell-off would be from some of these lofty levels, and then maybe we head higher into the rest of the year. Is this the beginning of something like that, do you think?
So I don't know whether it's a beginning, because you have to shake the market's confidence about the liquidity paradigm in order to get the 10 to 15%. Maybe we are. But it's very curious. I never thought we would have a call, Joe, where we say that the Fed may even lag the European Central Bank. The ECB is starting to signal that it may consider tapering, whereas we with the Fed are not even thinking about thinking. I mean, think of that contrast. And it's not because European growth is better than us. It's not. It's not because they have a looser fiscal policy than we do. We have a looser fiscal policy. It's not that the inflation is higher than ours. It's not. And it's not because there's more risk-taking going on. It's just that the Fed, with its new monetary framework, has gotten itself pinned in a corner, and they're not quite sure how to exit.
主持人问他说，他听说现在有人说这个股市要回调10%到15%，那我们现在看到这个标普500还没有回调5%呢，然后他们说进行这个比较大的回调之后，然后再创新高啊，问他是不是这样？那这个人说他也不清楚，他说可能，但如果想让咱们的市场现在回调10%到15%，咱们需要干嘛？需要去动摇市场上投资者的信心。他很惊讶美联储的这个缩紧 QE 的这个步伐，甚至于慢过欧洲央行啊，他非常的惊讶，所以他觉得美联储现在是被自己给卡在一个墙角上了啊，被自己的这个新的这个政策框架给卡住了啊，现在是为达到目的而进行这个政策的变动啊，但如果你达不到这两个目的的话，你就把自己卡死了啊，没有什么变通性。
You think that the tail is wagging the dog in terms of crypto, or it's just all part of the same sort of phenomenon that we're seeing with just air coming out of the sales to some extent, Mohammed? Because I don't want to tie. I mean, pop culture and business, a lot of times they merge, but SNL, Elon Musk on SNL, that's looking a lot like kind of an important moment for a lot of reasons. For Tesla, which is all tied up with Bitcoin as well. But would you say the tail's wagging the dog, or it's just one big sort of reckoning?
So it's certainly part of a big phenomenon. I don't call it a reckoning yet, but a phenomenon, which is liquidity. Okay, if you start shaking a little bit confidence in the liquidity paradigm, you will get the across-the-board selling. We started having it last week, by the way, and then the Fed came in almost unison. Officials all sort of reaffirmed it's transitory and everything else, and then we recovered towards the end of the week. So we're just replaying in a bigger way. But crypto has a different thing going for it. The Elon Musk Tesla signal of a few weeks ago was a signal of broad-based adoption by the private sector of crypto as a store of value and as a method of payment. And the sort of questioning that Elon Musk raised about crypto has shaken this notion that it will be widely adopted by the private sector.
And Coinbase too.
主持人问他说：“你怎么看现在比特币的这个自由式落体？自由式落体？那他觉得现在就是动摇了，什么动摇了？投资者信心动摇了啊。那是谁动摇了这个投资者信心啊？他认为是这个伊隆马斯克，马伊隆。因为几个月前特斯拉说可以接受比特币来交易他的这个电车，现在你又说不能，那他动摇了什么？动摇了投资者的信心。因为本来投资者以为你特斯拉的这一步比较激进的这么一个举动会影响到更多的人。你记得之前那个新闻都怎么说吗？那个新闻频道他说会动摇到其他的公司，会去劝说他们也进行和特斯拉一样的动作，就是把他们10%的现金换成比特币，来用比特币作为一个存储现金的方式。那但是前几天他出来说特斯拉又不接受这个东西了，说因为这个货币很脏什么什么，也许他也受到了外界的压力，因为特斯拉现在在这个国际上的舞台，或者在发达国家中，他们这个形象需要保持一个非常干净、非常对环境友善的一个公司，也许也是受到了一些压力，不一定是他自己想要去这样去操作市场啊，所以他要保持特斯拉的这个形象啊，所以他说现在又不接受比特币了啊，所以投资者就认为连特斯拉现在都不接受比特币了，这么激进的公司都不接受比特币了，那以后哪个公司还敢用比特币来存储他们这个现金
？Was also in that same sort of time frame too, and that's below the reference price. Obviously, there's some other things happening there as well. So, what underlying all of this, Mohammed, is a multiple on the QQQ or the NASDAQ, where a lot of these companies are just really still killing it and doing great, and multiples are nothing like 1999 in some of these good leading tech stocks and even pandemic beneficiaries. So does that put a floor under how ugly this gets if next year's QQQ multiple is 22 or 23?
It certainly puts a longer-term floor, but remember, when liquidity goes out, it is very hard to distinguish yourself. The noise becomes so dominant that even very firmly based companies with massive balance sheets, with an ability to do well both in a reopening and closed economy, and that is what big tech has shown us, even they suffer. You cannot be a good house if the neighborhood is being challenged. And what the market is starting to sense is that the liquidity neighborhood is less robust because the Fed may be late.
So this is not COVID related.
所以主持人问他说，现在 QQQ 的 PE 看起来肯定是比2000年的泡沫那个时候要低一些，或者说最起码估值上看起来更健康一些。所以说如果QQQ 就是这边指的纳斯达克100，它明年的这个 PE 达到22%左右啊，如果能达到那个目标的话，是否能对现在的股市或者这个回调给它一个地板，就是说你就不要再回调了啊，因为你再往下调，你明年的 PE 就降到18了啊，意思是这个意思，就会不会停止现在的这个回调啊？那他现在说是有可能啊，有可能，但问题是啥？问题是现在是 Fine 这些大蓝筹公司也很痛苦啊，他们的股价也是有下跌，当然跌的没有那些连利润都没有的公司好。那些投机公司，但问题是啥？问题是你的房子很难是一个好房子，当你的小区都在着火啊，你小区里的其他房子都在着火，你整个小区都在着火，你这房子再好也没有太大用，对吧？指的就是饭也被往下拽。所以现在主要的问题是市场的这个投资者情绪被挑战了。被什么挑战了？他认为是被美联储紧缩日期太慢，被这个事儿给挑战到了投资者的信心。如果美联储政策太鹰派，肯定是对股市非常危险的，肯定很容易导致崩盘。但是问题是，美联储政策太鸽派， 太鸽派可以吗？听他这个意思应该也不太好啊。那其实昨天我也看到这个前美国财政部部长出来怼这个鲍威尔，说什么？说你现在紧缩的这么缓慢，你的政策如此宽松比其他国家的央行都要慢一拍两拍的，你是给美国经济的稳定性增加了风险。也就是说，如果你还不开始紧缩 QE， 你的大字还没一撇，那真正等到你该加息的时候都猴年马月了。忘记哪个央行了，好像富国银行说他们预计是2024年美联储才开始加息啊。那你不加息的话，美联储就少了一个武器，少了一个工具，对不对？如果说到2024年之前，美国又出现一个什么天灾人祸，和这个黑天鹅很像，和病毒黑天鹅很像的，你没有办法降息来刺激经济了，你的利息已经到地板了，你少了一个工具，强有力的工具。所以就是说，如果在这个时间段出现任何的问题，包括战争，美国的这个金融稳定性就会受到极大的挑战啊。好吧，希望这期视频对你所帮助，感谢你的收看，我们下次见，拜拜。